Hey folks, wanted to make a quick video here showing kind of the internals of the HF8 Haptic seat pad by Next Level Racing and show a couple of weaknesses of the design that have caused probably about 80% of the failures with this seat pad. This pad here was one that failed on me outside of warranty, and so again, none of this stuff, I would suggest doing any of this while your seat pad is still under warranty. But when it's out of warranty, Next Level Racing doesn't really give you much in the way of options to get a repair fixed other than buying a whole new one. So here are some things you can do on your own. What I've done on this pad here is I've cut the backing here so we can see what goes on underneath. The pad itself has a zipper that's just above the fold, about approximately 3 inches above the fold of where the seat pad backing and the seat fold into your chair. And unfortunately, they really needed to make this zipper about 3 inches lower to put it right over one of the main failure points of the seat pad. Majority of the failures that occur with a seat pad are going to be in the motors in the seat section. And the reason for this, there's really two areas where this occurs. And both reasons result from the fact that the manufacturer uses a 26 gauge wire. And that 26 gauge wire is just way too thin. And what happens is it breaks right at the fold area, or it breaks right at the motor housing, where it goes right into the solder point on the motor. So let me show you what we found here. So here, let me pull this back. Now I've cut the seat pad here. Your actual fold is right in this area here. You can kind of see the discoloration in the foam. So this is where the actual fold is. If we peel this back, here are your wires. You have 4 motors in here in the seat pad, and there's 4 sets of wires. And your fold is right here, and guess where the brakes are? Right here. And again, here's another brake. Here's another brake. You can see where it's deformed here. This is where majority of the time, if you're going to have a failure on the one of your bottom motors, this would be the first place to check, is to come in and take a look at this wiring. Again, this wiring is extremely thin wire and is not very flexible. And you can see they've got a glue here that is kind of put on. And what happens is when this is put together, it's glued. Now you can see that the foam is kind of attached to it. And what that does is it kind of locks that wire in place. And that's fine, except for when you bend this. When you bend the seat pad, you're now putting stress on these wire points. And that's what's causing them to break. And especially if you get up and getting up and getting back down into the seat repeatedly, you're pushing this over and over and over again. And that's where the eventual failure occurs. The other place where the failure occurs is on the solder point on the motors themselves. Each of these motors is put inside a little plastic housing. You can take this housing off here, and this is your motor. It's a very simple design. Motor's just throwing this counterweight. It spins it, and that's what causes your vibration. And if you look right in here, you can see where the wire has broken from the solder point. And again, you're starting and stopping this motor, so you have just a little bit of wiggle. And again, with this wire glued in place, it's causing a little more, just a slight amount of movement, and these wires eventually begin to break. So how do we repair this? Probably the best way is if you have your seat pad here, you're normally looking at, again, the zipper is in the wrong position. So you look at where that zipper is, you're going to go approximately 3 inches down into the seat pad. And what I would do is, with this all in place, is I would make a cut. Don't even worry, leave the zipper zipped up. Make a cut about 3 inches below into this outer covering. And then also a cut in the foam, approximately 3 inches below. All right, and you just be careful as you're cutting the foam. Don't cut all the way through it because you don't want to cut into the wires, but cut it gradually. And it's usually, once you get a cut partially done to it, you can even use your fingers to spread it apart the last little bit. From there, you can peel it back, look for your broken wire. If you find the broken wire, you can use it. You can either get another piece of wire to splice it in or to solder it in place. What I would suggest, if you're going to replace any of the wires in this bending part or the folding part of the seat pad, is to get a 20 gauge AWG wire, something similar to like this. All right, this wire is a little bit thicker and it's very, very flexible. This is what really should have been put in this seat pad in the first place. And if the manufacturer would do this, they would probably drop the replacement rate that they would have to do under warranty by about 80%, because this is a lot of the problems here. And let's see if we can show. If you look at the size difference between the two, there's, you're not talking about a major difference, but you're talking a lot of difference when you feel the flexibility of the two wires. So to repair this, I would take a length of this wire, bridge the gap between the two sections. You can either solder each piece or use small splices and just crimp a splice across it. Make sure that the more flexible wire runs across this fold, because that will future-proof it. Then you won't have it break on you a second time. And same when you're talking about into the motor. You can take a solder in, run this all the way out, past the fold, and then splice it into the remaining wires there. That will solve a majority of your problem. Between those two issues, if you don't find it at the fold, you'll find it at the motor. That is, majority of the problems that you run into where you lose a motor on the seat, that's where it's at. Now, if you go through and you cut the foam back and you're able to look at this fold here and you don't see any wires broken, the next step would be to go to the motor that does not operate. And here we'll show this. Let's say it's one of the motors that are right at the base of the thigh. Okay, these motors here, when you cut this cover back, it has a thin piece of foam that covers the housing. Then you can get into the housing and pop the cover off, which will be like this here. Pop the cover off, and you probably find a broken solder point. So if you check at the fold, there's no break or no breaks in the wiring that you can see there. The next option would be to go to the motor that's not working, do a cut here, so you can open it up, get into, peel back the foam, peel off the cover, and then check the wire connection there. Once it's repaired, you put the foam back in place, you put the outer cover back in place, and then you can use a fabric tape, or even, I've seen people even use like a black duct tape and put that over that cut, and then you can, press on and not have too much of a problem. You should be able to get your motor working again, and you can at least get a little more use out of your seat. The other issue that the HF8 seat has is that the control box will sometimes suddenly all the motors will kick on their own. You'll get a bright LED and you cannot shut the seat off. Anytime you plug the seat into power, all the motors come on and this light comes on. The reason that happens is because the chips that control the motors on the circuit board are not sufficiently rated for the power draw of the motors. And this causes those chips to burn, to mess up, malfunction, and then you're stuck with them all the time. To fix that, you would remove the knob here off the controller, the controller has 4 screws, one on each corner of the controller box. You pull the cover off, and you will have the controller itself. The controller has 3 plugs that can be removed by hand, unplugged on each side. You can then pull the circuit board out. These 2 chips, the one right here and the one on this side, these are the ones that are malfunctioning and causing the problems on the circuit board. The chip here on the, if you're looking at the large plug where it says motors, the chip here on the right, that controls the LED and 1 motor. The chip on this side controls the other 7 motors on the pad. Both of these chips are identical. And I'll have a link in the bottom of the description of this YouTube that will go to and show you the difference of the 2 types of chips that are available and how to fix it. This basic chip that comes stock with the circuit board is a TPL7407L. All right. They have another chip that's available to replace it with that's called a TPL7407LA. That A designates that it has a higher voltage rating. You can get a strip of them like this available. Now, I picked up this strip. It was 10 of them. And all 10 of them, with shipping and everything, came out to being under $20 for repair. So again, I have a link in the description that will lead you to, talks about how to desolder and solder on, replace these new chips, as I've done with this one here. And this has the new chips soldered in place and the old ones removed. And that's really it. Those are the 3 issues with the HF8 haptic seat pad. You have very thin, too thin of a gauge wire used on the motors, and you have chips that are just not designed for the motor draw. Sorry, I'm trying to get this thing to focus here. So the good news is that you can fix it on yourself with, a fairly minimal amount of tools, soldering iron or and some wire. The wire itself, you can get 20 gauge AWG wire, enough to do the entire seat. Rewire the entire seat would cost you probably $15, maybe $20 at the most. And again, the chips, like I said, you can get, just to get 2 replacement chips would cost you under $10. So if you don't have any other option, the Next Level Racing isn't going to replace it, doesn't give you any better option to repair. This is a way you can kind of do it on your own. I hope this helps, and take care.